Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Mic Check 2. I was trying to get in there with I was trying to get in there. My name is Rachel.
My name is Aja.
And as you can see, we're missing one member of the band. He decided to
go on tour.
He tried to take his talents elsewhere. But he will definitely be back next podcast episode. We definitely miss him. But we have some exciting stuff to talk about today.
We have a special guest.
Yes, we're going to allow her to introduce herself. Go ahead.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. My name is Lauren Haynes. I'm a licensed master social worker and a certified case manager. And I work with St. Hope's Case Management Department as the Social Determinants of Health Coordinator. And I've been with St. Hope since 2017.
Ooh, that was a lot.
That was a handful. That was a little like, let me put some respect on that, Lauren. Okay, I love it. Me and Lauren actually kind of started around the same time. I made 17.
Yes, you helped train me.
Oh.
Yes, look at that.
Thank you. Full circle moments.
Full circle.
But yeah, today we get to talk about. You kind of mentioned your department, the case management department. So a lot of times, people don't know what we do in case management.
Absolutely not.
And we all dabble in it at this table.
Yes.
And what more better way to talk about it than on Social Worker Appreciation Month? Shout outs to the social workers. We see you.
The whole social work team.
We see you.
We love you guys. We appreciate you guys.
I like to say social workers are the heart of the clinic.
Yes.
Because we literally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is, because when
you
think about it, no, for real, because when you think about it, you know, you can go and see your physician, you can talk about all these things, but if everything kind of isn't in alignment, it throws everything off.
Right.
So what good is the prescription if you can't get it?
Because you ain't seen your social worker.
What good is the medication if you have to take it with food? And food is a struggle for you at the moment. Mm. What good is your mental health if you're kind of fighting a lot of stuff that's happening on the outside world? So I always try to remind people like, hey, I know we're all a team, but we kind of make sure what you're doing works.
I actually feel that way. I remember we used to have meetings. This is totally off topic from the questions. We're going to get into it. But I remember we used to have meetings and like the other teams used to get shouted out. But we made them. We were like the oil in the car to make it drive. I just want to say that.
Yes.
Shout out to the social workers. So let's kind of talk about what social work is. Because I know a lot of people, they kind of see us. Some people don't come to see case management, or some come by and they don't even know like what all we do.
Or sometimes people don't even think they need it. They kind of have in their in their head what social work is. You know, sometimes people think social work with like kids or like domestic disputes, and it's like, no, that is a large umbrella that goes under there. Social work is like a major umbrella.
It is a huge, huge umbrella. So what is a social worker?
Yes. So essentially, a social worker is basically somebody who helps a person in need. A lot of people think social workers, unfortunately, only work in the child welfare system with CPS, but social workers can be found anywhere where a patient is in need. There's adoption social workers, medical social workers like myself, social workers in prison, social workers in school. So it is a broad field where the main concern is just really helping people in need, helping people thrive in their environments and making them the best that they can really be. That's the role of a social worker.
Chef's kiss. You said that beautifully.
So
yeah, it's like I just said, it is a big umbrella, and a lot of times we do get put into a cast of just working with like CPS, or like anytime I tell somebody I'm a social worker, they're like, "Oh, you take people with kids?"
Yes.
Yeah, it's like no.
Yes.
I help people who need help in any instance, like whatever their circumstances are. We try to solve a problem for them. So at the beginning of your career, what qualities did you think made for a good social worker?
So at the beginning of my career, I thought a good social worker was somebody who's patient, Of course, somebody who is a good problem solver, someone who has good critical thinking skills, the basics.
Yeah.
Now, a few years in to being a social worker, I know that a good social worker is somebody who's flexible, someone who meets the patient where they are, whether it's in person, via phone, on Zoom. I know a good social worker is somebody who really knows how to effectively communicate with speaking and listening. I know a really good social worker is somebody who's genuine. You really care about the person. You really care about your work ethic. And lastly, one of the biggest things I've learned, a great social worker is somebody who has good, healthy boundaries. You need to know, okay, I need to pause right now. I need to take a break. You know when to ask for help. You know when to check in as a social worker and when it's time to check out.
That's a big one.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
a big one.
I struggled with that one.
In the beginning,
Boundaries are big. Boundaries.
Yeah, in the beginning, I know I used to, the whole clock out thing wasn't there for me. So like I could be at dinner and I'm like, oh my God, did I do that? Did I do that? And people would be like, what? I'm like, it's something for work. So I'm over here looking crazy because I'm like, it could be a Saturday afternoon and I'll be like, I got it. I need it.
Yes.
I think for me, when I first started, it was difficult because the type of population sometimes we work with, just some things that they experienced. And like, the biggest thing I learned, especially working here at St. Hope, is that it can be anybody. Anything can happen to anybody. Like, you're not above anything. And so just kind of putting myself in people's shoes and trying to be empathetic, but not like
really taking it
all home with me and like feeling like I'm actually going through that experience, because that's still their experience. So just trying to find a way to navigate to help them through different things, but not. I'm such a problem solver. I'm like, don't even worry about it. You're already going through it enough. Like, you need food. I'm driving to the pantry. Let me go get it for you. Like, I had to really reel it in. Like, girl, you can't drive them to the pantry now. Like, but it really is hard because you
want to.
You feel for them. Like, you're like, oh my God, like, you ain't ate in 2 days.
Yes.
Like, let me go to Sonic. I was actually going to lunch. And you're like, no, you can't do that.
Right.
So that boundaries is a big thing. For sure.
Yes.
So
what are some things that people commonly take for granted in terms of what social workers do?
I would say one big thing that people take for granted is just for social workers being able to respond to a situation in a positive way. That takes a lot. It really does take a lot. It's not always an easy feat. More often than not, we have to jump through a lot of hurdles to just get one resource. But we deal with a lot of people who are very layered and have complex issues. So getting resources is not always the snap of a finger. Sometimes it takes time. So I think that is most often take it for granted a lot. There's a lot of work that goes behind the scenes of social work and coordinating services and follow-up and communication and documentation along with patient satisfaction. So I think that's taken for granted more often than not.
I agree. I agree. Because I think sometimes people don't realize, a lot of times people see the end product.
Yes.
They know that you do a great job and they see the end product and they don't see
all the moving pieces.
You was on hold for 45 minutes, but also faxing the document and then having somebody on Zoom and then trying to coordinate. They just see you solve the problem.
Yes.
And I'm like, thank you.
It took a lot to get that problem solved.
Yes.
But I think that's like the most rewarding part about social work for me was just the end solution, like actually solving a problem for somebody. Because we can't fix it all. Like I had to realize that too. Like you're not going to solve every issue, but like just kind of making one part of their life.
One stride.
A little easier was very rewarding for me. And just like helping them get their medications, and that's like one less thing they had to worry about on top of their already stressful lives. But it's not just sign this little piece of paper and then like voila, Like, yeah, you're on hold for 45 minutes. You're filling out the paperwork. You're talking the client off the edge. You're talking to your coworkers because they're like, hey, they're ready.
Yeah, no matter
Yes,
how much it
yes.
looks like magic, we're not magicians.
At all.
So that
Not
would be
at
your
all.
misconception. You think
Yes, no matter how
we're not-
how much like magic it looks, it's not magicians. Like, it takes a lot of effort.
Right. So I feel like, just speaking on like helping clients out, there are some things that can go absolutely wrong too. So was there ever like an interaction where you wish you would have like did something different or like helped out in a different way or maybe crossed the boundary that you're like, oh, I shouldn't have did that?
Oh, well, I remember early on in my career, I think it really might have been maybe the second or third patient I ever worked with.
Mm-hmm.
I remember they were on my schedule. I looked at the reason for their visit and I was like, okay, this seems like a lot, but that's okay. That's okay. So I called the patient back, and just from my observations, it looked like everything he had going on was fine. Hygiene was good, proper manners, looked very well put together, like he didn't have any issues. Brought him back to my office, introduced myself, built some rapport, and then he just let everything out. He was homeless, recently diagnosed with an illness he had no information on. He hadn't had his psychiatric meds for at least 2 months, and also recently dealing with some after effects of assault. So in that moment, I really just had to check myself. Just observations are just not always what they seem. Somebody can be really putting on a strong face and look fine on the outside, but internally they can have a lot going on.
That's so true.
A lot going on.
That's so true. And I feel like some of the strongest people really are the ones who probably can use a little resources. I used to always say, we're like the referral sources. Like, anything you need, we can find it for you. Like, nothing... I won't say anything because some things, like, we can't get that Lamborghini
everything.
truck. We
Not
can't
everything.
get that Lambo. But, like, we definitely will try our best. And it people do put on a nice front. And so when you do get all that information, it's just kind of like, okay, where do we even start? Like, so...
Right. Or sometimes I also feel like in the field, sometimes people are just so strong that they don't want to ask. That's the thing. And I'm like, we all know how like big pharma is and like insurances and co-pays. And it's like, you struggling to pay this $3,000 copay, but you don't want to say anything because then you think I'm going to judge you about your finances.
Right.
I wouldn't want to pay a $3,000 copay.
I wouldn't want to pay $30. I'll be frowned up at 30 checking in.
It's like one of those situations where you it's okay to put your pride aside in those type of situations, because even though it's not realistic, that's just... let me take that back. It's not idealistic. That's the reality of the world that we live in when it comes to certain things. So I always just say like, hey, just ask for help. Right. Or ask. Sometimes just sit down. You never know what you might need.
That we have resources too.
Yes.
So I was going to ask Lauren, so like kind of in that situation where he appeared to be all put together, but then like that door is shut and he just let the gates flow. How would you recommend somebody handling like a high emotional situation like that?
High emotional situations, first thing, just start out with giving a patient a clean slate. You don't know what they're dealing with, what's going on. Also, yourself as a social worker, keep an open mind. Keep an open mind. Remember to breathe. You're a person just like the patient is. They just might be going through something that triggered this reaction. So just keep an open mind, breathe. Know when to reach out. If it's something you feel like is above you resolving, reach out to another case manager, reach out to your supervisor, possibly reach out to the healthcare manager if you feel like you cannot address the needs of what the patient is requesting.
Right. I was going to ask Lauren, this is a little off topic. This was your first social work job? Or you did
This
case
was my first big girl social work job.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
So it was
mine
a
too.
learning experience.
Mine
yes.
too. Mine too.
I love it, big girl.
Yes. This is all our big girls.
Yeah,
Yes,
I was gonna say,
yes.
this was everybody's starting point and current,
So I actually started. Well, it's not technically related to social work, but kind of. I was working at the food stamp office,
Okay.
so it was still like helping families in need and all of that. So it's kind of like associated
No,
together.
that's pretty much the same thing.
It is. You think so?
I think so.
But it was only
It's
one
just one
service
part of
focus. Yeah.
under the umbrella, but it was still under there.
Yeah.
So
That would be my first big girl social work job
Yes.
then. And then I did nursing home.
ooh.
And I think as a social worker, it's very important if you guys are ever interested in getting into this type of field work, is to know what population you're willing to
Yes.
and not willing to work with.
Very important.
Because starting off, I knew for me, I never wanted to work with kids.
Yeah.
And I say this all the time because we're so known to be CPS. Social work is always associated with CPS. I knew coming out of school, I was like, I'm going to try to take all these kids home. I'm still living at home. Where are we going to put these kids at? So I just knew off bat, like, it just wasn't for me. But some people are really great with kids. And
Right.
that's their lane. But I knew for me, I couldn't do children. Could you work? What was your big no?
I feel like when I started, I was really interested in working with adoptions.
Okay.
Either babies, children, but I was also interested in the gerontological population. So seasoned individuals, 70 and up. So I was, I guess, interested in the extremes, not really anything in
the
between.
middle? Yeah.
But it's working out. It's working out.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. I knew she had both of I knew I didn't want to do any of the extremes.
Yeah, none of the
Because
extremes.
to me, I know myself. One thing I knew about myself, and you can ask anybody that we work with. Like, you can ask anybody at Bel Air. Everybody know I'm like, because when it comes to the kids and the older people, they don't deserve that. Most of the time, they can't speak up for themselves. I just can't take that.
Yeah.
So I knew for me, that was a no.
So the nursing home, I loved working with the older population. They had some great stories. It was the families. It was the families. It was like, okay, grandma's 98. She don't need to be living alone. They'd be like, why? Okay. Let's start from the beginning. Let's backtrack on why we're here. Why we're even at the nursing home. Like, we're 98. She fell. Grandma's not going back to the 2-story. Let's reevaluate. So I just knew for me, I just think it's very important coming into the field just to know your
boundary,
because that goes back into the boundaries, because it is such a big umbrella with social work. And I think that's one thing I like about St. Hope, though, because it's not just one service that we're offering in terms of like needs, helping them with a need. And then you get a range of population. Like, we have not children, but we have like, new adults coming into adulthood, and then you'll have your elderly population still trying to figure some stuff out. So like, I think,
You like it.
I like it. I do like the population that we get to work with. And then we have some rural areas, and then we also have the city, the urban, I guess it's called, urban areas. So you kind of get a fit for both. So when I first started, I was in Conroe, and I love the patients in Conroe.
That's what everybody say. It's too far for me. Love y'all, but that's just way
Out of your jurisdiction.
And y'all know I'm bad with directions. They sent me to Cairo one time. I was on the phone crying. I was like, where am I at? I don't know where I'm at. I'm sorry. We could Zoom, though.
Yeah, we can Zoom it. So I knew, but the patients, I feel like in the rural areas are just so appreciative because they don't really get a lot of resources in those areas. And I'm not saying they're not appreciative in the urban areas, but I just really remember them being just like,
yeah. I mean,
it's
I've
a
heard
social
that.
worker. They
Yes,
just love
yes.
you, and they just like, you're great. Nothing you can do is
Yes.
wrong. You'd be like, I'm so sorry, I couldn't get that. Thank you for trying.
But you got ABC. You got ABC.
Yeah, thank you for trying. Yeah, so I would say very important, because I wanted to talk about getting into the field of social work. Just that would be my number one suggestion. Just knowing like, okay, I can't do kids. Because when I first actually graduated, I wanted to work in the jail system.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I applied for a job, and the man laughed at me in the interview. He was like, "No, baby, you're not gonna make it." Because you gotta be, boundaries. I didn't have boundaries. Coming in as a new social worker, you don't have boundaries. You want to save everybody. You want to.
I could not
Yeah.
see you working in the jail.
Really?
Look at this.
No, and I think I had that instinct because I like the criminal shows and all of that. I just wanted to rehabilitate everybody. No.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry he laughed at you, but I see why. I see why.
Yeah,
that was not
was
not your
my calling.
calling.
You
You was
don't see it,
barking up the
Lauren?
wrong tree.
I would have liked to see you maybe attempt it for a week or two.
Oh,
A week or
you
two.
think I would have been humble?
Yeah.
So yeah, just know, because it is a big umbrella. You can work from the jails, the schools, clinics. That's one thing I really enjoy about social work. You don't have to limit yourself to just one category. I was slinging food stamps, so I enjoyed it. But I do think a clinic setting is a good setting to kind of go into everything. So I wanted to talk too about switching gears. We do take on a lot. We were talking about boundaries earlier, and just how our mental health can be affected by the things we do. I know, Aja, you mentioned on a Saturday, you're like, oh, I could have did that, or I remembered this. So just because you guys are still actively in the clinic, what's some ways that you check in for your mental health? We can start with Lauren.
Okay, yes. So one way I check in, I do a lot of breathing. It
sound like my therapist.
sounds
The
very
breath work.
basic. Yes, breathing when I feel like I'm overwhelmed. I'll use this grounding technique. Okay, what's one thing I see? Second thing, what's another thing I smell? What's another thing I taste? It grounds you. It's just really good. Breathing a few breaths in, a few breaths out. It can really make a big difference when you feel like you're overwhelmed or out of nowhere your heart rate increases. So breathing is a form of self-care for me. I also know when to take a break. Did not come easy. Had to come with me learning my boundaries. I know, okay, that was a very intense patient. I need to maybe decompress for 5 minutes. Maybe it's time for me to take a bathroom break or just take a step outside in between my next patient. So it's just important to make sure you're good before you can try to add something else on your back in your backpack before you try to help somebody else.
I love that.
Yeah.
What do you do, Aja?
I decompress every day after work. That's literally my transition. So soon as I get in the car, I sit for a moment, and that's my cue to my brain that whatever happened there, I have to leave it here. I have to leave it at Bel Air.
Right.
And sometimes I'll sit in silence. I do have a feel-good playlist because it kind of transitioned me into my personal life. Or I'll just listen to classical music, but that's just my time to decompress. I don't want to talk on the phone. I don't want to really do anything. I just want the listening sense to go off. Because I always tell people this, I'm extroverted. Y'all know me. I'm extroverted. I'm a talker, but I do a lot of talking at work that I just need a moment to just do nothing.
Right.
And just nothing. Literally, just listen to the music. Sometimes I don't even play music. Sometimes I will drive home in silence.
Oh, that was a long day.
If I'm driving home in silence, it was heavy that day. But that's just something I found that I actually found that out later on, which I really wish I would have found out in the beginning. But it's just something that really works for me because that just cues my brain and I think my nervous system in general to just transition into Aja. Yeah.
Yeah, not the caseworker Aja, just
yes.
Aja.
And so that really works for me. I do I try to stretch too. I try to stretch. I try to go and, I'll dip off into the exam room or an empty room. And, I just kind of stretch because sometimes I sit down if I'm sitting down a lot, or if I just feel when I hear, one thing I notice about me, when I hear or I'm in a high stress situation, I tense up too. So it's okay, roll your shoulders back. drop your tongue from the roof of your mouth, unlock your jaw.
Like,
Like,
I got that bad.
no, because it's tense. Like, I'd be like, it'd be a little pause. I'll be like, okay.
Yeah.
But then just to relieve the stress, or if it's just like a lot going on, like I tend to tense up. So I got to release that back out.
Yeah,
I don't want to hold that with me all day.
Oh no. When I was doing case management, I had to learn to like leave work at work.
Mm-hmm.
So like I mentioned before, I came from the nursing home was my job right before this, and I was like on call 24 hours, the only social worker. It was like 80 beds, yeah. So like they didn't care. Like if something was going on, you had to be on the phone. So coming into this position, I was like, okay, like oh, it stops at 6. Like oh my god, like.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what to do all my free time. I was like, nobody calling my phone after hours. Like, you have some cases and you build your rapport with your clients that you're comfortable with. But I had to learn to like leave work at work.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, if I didn't write the note, I still had time to do it. Like I didn't have to get everything done. And so just being more realistic with myself and expectations of myself. Like I'm not going to be able to save the world, but I can make a difference just by being present and giving my best in that moment, but like I didn't have to be perfect. Like I didn't have to solve. Like if a patient comes to you and they have 10 issues and I solved 2, I felt like I was feeling like, oh, I didn't do enough. Like I needed to solve all 10. And the more you get into the work, you're like, you solved 2? Like
Yes.
you rocked it, girl. Like just being more gentle with yourself. And I think the more social work is your calling, and the more you get into it, the more you'll learn to just be gentle. And I think that really helped my mental health because as a Virgo, perfectionist, like, yeah.
Yes. You definitely have to learn to prioritize. Everything is not going to get done at one meeting. It's not enough time. It's not realistic. Do not give a patient false hope. Speak with the patient, see what is at their, top priority needs, and just go from there.
Yeah,
that's all you
have
can
to make
do.
a plan. I tell patients that all the time. You came in here with 10 things.
What can we do today?
My shift is only 8 to 6.
What can we do today?
What can we do today? And then I also try to just tell people, just be mindful that just like you have a respected time that you decided that you wanted to meet, somebody else has a time that they want to meet too. And we have to respect everybody's time. So we may have only been able to address one thing in the 30 minutes or the hour that you requested. We don't want to run over into somebody else's hour, because if the shoe was on the other foot, you would be upset.
Exactly. That's so true. So let's break some myths up in here, because I know a lot of people don't know what we actually do in that office.
Oh, yes. I've heard everything. They just be clickety-clacking. They be on their phone. They be...
Clickety-clacking. I love that. Hashtag clickety-clacking.
I'm like, what? I don't even type that fast to do clickety-clacking.
So what resources, like what services do we have that can actually help a patient that we see here at St. Hope?
So some services we have, a big one is we can complete virtual intakes. So this helps a lot for patients who, work a lot or have a lot going on, can't always make the first appointment with case management in the clinic. We can reach out to you via phone, send you a HIPAA secure link via text or email, get with you on Zoom, and we can gather the required documents needed to get you in the system so you can meet with any of our departments: medical, dental, optometry, nutrition, psychotherapy. We have an array of services at St. Hope that you can take advantage of once you have your intake completed. So that's a big resource we have that a lot of patients, new, reestablished, are taking advantage of.
I love that. Virtual appointments. I remember when we started that, I was crazy. It was like, how are we going to meet them online?
It was new.
Yeah, it was new.
It was new. It was a lot.
So I know we also do, our big thing was medications. We help patients get medications. Y'all want to talk a little bit more about that?
Well, with medication assistance, the first thing, insurance versus uninsured. That's the biggest. That's the biggest thing right there, because that kind of lets the person you're working with know where to start. Once we start to deep dive into that, after that, we kind of see what all can we get coverage for, because we do know that people are taking multiple medications that they need. And so we do try to address all of them. You know, is it patient assistance program? Is the state willing to cover it? Copay cards. You know, we just kind of go out there and really try to see where can we get the funds and how can we get them to you today, or the pharmacy. So that's a big, that's a major component. Because honestly, everybody's taking something.
Yeah, vitamins, anything. We can try to get it free for you. So I know, Lauren, you talked about doing like the intakes and the medications. So in the intake, we do an assessment. So can we talk about the assessment? It's a needs assessment.
Yes.
And that's where some of our resources come from too.
Yes. So basically, we'll ask questions about a lot of different social areas. We'll ask about your housing status. We'll ask about your medication adherence. We'll ask about your household. We will ask if there are any specialties you need. So we'll just basically, it's comprehensive for the most part. We're asking a variety of questions to see if you maybe need a referral or a recommendation to see any of our specialties. It also helps us to know what we need to help you get access to.
Right.
So it might sound like a lot. It might sound like we're getting in your business, but it's only to make sure we're getting you all the help you need.
Yeah. And then I know another big component too for resources that we offer was transportation.
Yes. So we want to make sure you can come see us. That's the biggest thing. A lot of people, and sometimes people don't even want to speak about that, but it's important that you show up. And, a lot of times people don't want to say, oh, I'm struggling with transportation. I don't have transportation. I'm asking my friends. I don't want to keep asking my friends for transportation. So, yeah. I mean, that's one of the things that we try to address. St. Hope offers transportation. We can come and pick you up.
If needed, yeah.
But we have to know that that's a service that you want, because after that, we have to coordinate. Like, when is your appointment? Where are you going? How many appointments do you have that day? Are you bundled? We don't want to assume that you just need to come to the clinic for an hour when you seeing medical, dental, psych, and a podiatrist. You're going to be there a little bit longer.
Yes,
right.
yes.
And then there's, Metro cards, or, like, we can assist you with getting your like Medicaid transportation set up, like Metro Lift, things like that. So I always just ask, or I always lead with, is there anything that you could think of that may hinder you from coming back to see me? That gets them.
Yes.
Because they be like, girl, my work schedule, my car in the shop. But I'm like, okay, well,
let's work through these things.
Like, do I need to, or, is something going to go wrong? Like, do I need to let somebody else know? Like, in 2 weeks, he or she needs to come back. Like, it needs to happen.
Right.
So,
So a lot of times too, not just with doing the assessments and trying to coordinate their care, we're also like their low-key therapists. We're not actual therapists, but like that's when they come in and they just lay it all out. So sometimes it may look like she's been in there with an hour with that patient, and this is the first time they actually probably felt comfortable talking to somebody. These open-ended questions do kind of get people talking, and they want to, oh, you can help with that? Can you also help with this? It just leads into other things. So it's a big shoe I feel like, for the clinic. So we're not just clickety-clacking. I'm like, what is clickety-clack?
I always just remind people that this is what people tend to forget. Okay, the patient has come. The patient has asked for ABC, X, Y, and Z. You actually have to do the work for the request.
Yeah.
Like all the paperwork. But then you have to go back and document everything that you've done. And I think that's the part that people tend to forget, is the documentation part.
of it.
They just see like, oh, I'm sitting here talking to Lauren, blah, 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 blah. The patient exit. Yeah, and that's when we really get to clickety-clacking, because it's fresh. It's right there. You like, see my medication, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's the part that people forget. So that's why, honestly, it takes that long sometimes because you have to document everything.
Yeah.
You really have to document everything.
And some of these applications, they not one page.
12.
Yes.
15.
And so we're that's why you see the clicking and clacking, because we on that line trying to get that application filled out and get it all together. So it is a lot of resources that St. Hope does offer for patients. So I do love that, like transportation. We talked about medication. I know we can help them get into seeing a therapist. All of those resources and channels.
And then also, too, I also do want to remind people, I know Lauren spoke about like virtual intakes and everything. And for the most part, people don't typically understand that once you do an intake, you have access to that service.
Right.
So people just like, sometimes people come in and they say, oh, I did the medical intake, but I really want to see dental and vision. You can.
Right.
You can.
You're good to go.
You're good to go.
Yeah.
You want to see the podiatrist? Let's go get you on the schedule. It's not another intake that's involved. Once you do the full intake, our services are your services at this point.
Welcome. So I know a lot of time we're talking about intake. So just generic, what does everybody need to bring in? Like, we want to make sure they have income for sure.
We want to do income. Most importantly, we need some form of identification. We have to be able to identify you. I understand you came in and you told me your name was John. John, I need to be able to see that on something.
On a physical piece of paper.
I need to be able to see that on an ID, you know, on your driver's license, you know, your passport. You know, if your ID is out of state, we can use that. If your ID is from another country, we can use that.
Right.
But it has to have your name, date of birth, a photo.
Right.
So that we can identify who you are. Obviously, another big one, your insurance card. If you have insurance, please bring that, because it is nothing more heartbreaking for me than to complete the whole thing and then the insurance
pops up.
And now everything that we've done is...
We got to start from scratch.
We got to start from scratch. Proof of income and proof of Texas residency. People always typically ask me, why do I need to show you proof of Texas residency? And I kind of just explain it to them like this. I don't care where you live, number one.
No, we can't.
No, I mean, I don't care like what part of town you live in, whatever. That's,
right.
That's
I'm not
you.
Googling, I'm not map questing your address.
I'm not going to show up. But you have to understand that certain cities and states get funding. And so how is it, or how would that be fair if you're not a Texas resident, but you want to get Texas resident resources?
Benefits, yeah.
Yeah. So that's the most important thing about proof of residency. We're not looking your house up on MapQuest. We're not Google Images. We're not. But we need to be able to justify, hey, why did this patient receive
A, B, and C.
B, and C? And it's because this is a Harris County resident. You know, sometimes counties get different funding and different resources. So that's why we just need it. It's not... Everything we ask is for a reason. That's the biggest thing. Everything we ask is for a reason. We're not trying to make anything more difficult than it is, but we have to justify things.
And I know, I was going to say, Lauren, I know they probably come in a lot and like, again, you need this again? Yes. So can you explain like why we need it yearly, just to kind of keep everything
Yes. So even if nothing has changed, we need the required documents that Audra reviewed. We need them annually just to make sure you're still eligible for possibly certain sliding fee discounts we have, certain resources. We just want to make sure you're eligible to receive resources that might be available to you. So we do need to confirm your household size. We do need to confirm your income for everyone in the household. We do need to know if you are still receiving this insurance. We possibly might not be in network with this insurance, or you might have more coverage than your last insurance. We won't know about changes if we're not informed, so that's why we always ask. Right. And it's just important to stay up to date with everything.
So I would say that was a big misconception. We're not in your business.
Yeah, absolutely not.
No, trust. We will not ask for anything we do not need.
Yes.
The thing is, we always just want to review And, biggest thing, we are a FQHC. So we have regulations that we have to follow.
Right.
Yes.
So in order for us to continue to help you, we have rules and regulations that we have to follow too. So just bring your documents. Or, if you're struggling obtaining something, let us know. Sometimes we can help assist. Like, maybe you didn't get your Social Security Award letter in the mail. It's ways that we can request that online, so we can bring that in, So
It's just so much.
it is so much. It is so much. And also, too, I forgot one thing, too. If you go to, like, another facility, you get hospitalized, go ahead and bring
all that back in.
Bring all of that back in, because your PCP might need to make a referral for you. But we need to know
what happened.
Right.
I love that. So, as you can see, social workers, we cover a lot. We do a lot to try to help meet needs of the patient and meet them where they're at and trying to get them to, go a little further in life. So, Lauren, I just have a question. If there was anything you can change in the current field of social work, what would it be? She's like, yes, I like that.
Yes, so this is a really, really good question. If I could change one thing going on in the field of social work, it would definitely be realistically addressing social determinants of health. That's a really big one. So social determinants of health are conditions in the way we live, work, age, we're born into, worship, that affect life outcomes, functions. So, for example, let's say you are in an area that does not have a local grocery store. You don't have access to a grocery store. So that fact there will make you less likely to have good nutrition. If you are less likely to have good nutrition, you have an increased risk of heart disease, diabetes, and obesity. If you have an increased risk of heart disease, obesity, and diabetes, you have a lower life expectancy. So basically, it's just saying everything is connected. And a lot of social determinants, they're out of our control and they just affect everybody. So if I can change one thing in social work right now, it would be better means to advocate and address social determinants of health, because they're really, really important. They affect a lot more people than we realize.
If we just had our wand, we wish we could be magicians. We'd be
Yeah,
like,
we really wish.
you get this. We got a farm here. We got a
Oprah.
Yeah,
The Oprah moment.
yeah.
I really wish I could have an Oprah moment.
Oh yeah,
because that's one of the biggest things sometimes. And sometimes it's the part that is a little just difficult is when a service was there, but then the funding runs out.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And so that's another thing that, we try to explain the best that we can. Sometimes the funding is just gone. It runs out.
Right.
It's non-existent. Sometimes programs don't get renewed.
Yeah.
And so that's just an obstacle that, we kind of have to work through. But it's something that happens, and I don't think people really think about it. People think, oh, like, it's there, so it's always going to be there. In a perfect world.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be mine. I would love to just have more affordable resources for everybody. Like, okay, so you can't get this. I know the perfect place, because it is sometimes, luckily here we have like services that we're kind of tailored to. We know, like, we have our state programs, we have our medication programs that we know work, and we know, but like sometimes with housing, like I wish I could just build a neighborhood. Like I just need 500 houses. That's it. And everybody can be happy, So just more readily available resources that you don't have to jump through hoops and loops to obtain, like more long-term solutions. Because sometimes we have things and it's just kind of like a little Band-Aid in the world. So I just wish there were more long-term solutions.
And that's a referral for us.
Yeah.
And that's a referral for us. So, we have to refer you out to housing. So I'm sorry if they've run out of, resources.
Yeah. That's a big key. So we can help you get there. We just can't approve it. So I used to always say, like, I'm going to help you fill this paper out, and we're going to do our best. I'm going to follow up with them every day. I can call them every hour on the hour if you want me to. But I don't make the determine. Like, I can't determine if you're failed or passed, approved, denied. But if you are, we're going to appeal it and we're going to try again. So it's just so many
Components.
Components, yes.
That's really what it is. It's always so many components.
Components. I love that.
So before we close out, once again, you know what? Thank you to everybody at the table.
Yes.
But especially thanks to Lauren. We appreciate you so much, Lauren. I'm quick to call Lauren, and no matter how many times I call, that lovely voice comes through the phone.
Yeah, I don't think there's ever been a time I called Lauren's phone and she didn't answer.
Yeah,
Oh,
never.
Thank you. I'm always happy to help.
And that's crazy because I'm like, how she do that?
Yeah,
How you do that?
I just stepped out with a patient. You needed something?
But, we do appreciate everybody in case management, everybody on the social work team. You guys show up and show out day after day after day, and you guys continuously do a good job. That's the one thing that I know it's a shameless plug, but kudos to the department because you guys show up consistently. That's the one thing that I can give credit to everybody. Everybody shows up consistently.
Right.
So, Lauren, is there anything else that you would like to say to our viewers about just anything you think we skipped? Any tools, resources, just any little gems you would like to leave the viewers with?
I think a key takeaway would just be, just like not all patients' issues happen overnight, they're not going to be resolved with resources overnight. So just keep that in mind. With applications, it's a process. If there's no signature, it can't be submitted. If there's a document missing, again, it can't be submitted. So just keep that in mind. It's a process. Once it's submitted, just
ask.
Yeah, just ask and just know social workers. It's a challenging job, but we're in it for the right reason. And I want to shout out to the entire Conroe Clinic and to everybody in case management, especially Kat. She's a great case manager.
Shout out Catherine. That's another person who's going to answer. Asha.
For sure.
So, and I just want to say, if your heart has a calling to help, you definitely have to have the heart for it. If your heart is in the right place to help, we are always looking for great, genuine individuals to join the case management department and just have a willingness to give and help, but with healthy boundaries.
Yes. Yes.
So,
and just come talk to us. Come talk to us. You never know, because honestly, little Aja, I would have never saw this for myself. Never. I didn't think that's not something I thought. But then you realize you have good hard and soft skills that really align with everything. And it's like, wait a minute.
Like, this makes sense.
I like this.
Yeah.
But, thank you guys for always tuning in. Y'all have been rocking with us for a long time now.
So 33?
33. Y'all tuned in 33 times. But of course, if you would like to schedule an appointment, please call 713-778-1300 or visit us at offeringhope.org and use the chat feature on the website. And
follow, subscribe. Yeah,
okay, yes, follow, subscribe to all of us on all platforms. And remember, at St. Hope, you're more than just a number.